Multiple insider reports now confirm something unusual is happening. Inside the international banking system, hidden rate changes, quiet IMF meetings, and encrypted messages circulating between Tier 1 financial institutions. Tonight, we dive into what could be the biggest currency story of the decade, the potential revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, and why several banking sources believe the first signs are already appearing behind closed screens. This is Global Currency Watch. Let's get into it. To understand what is unfolding right now, you need context the mainstream media never covers. After the Iraq War, the dinar was devalued to near worthlessness, tied to the US dollar, restricted, and monitored by the IMF. But beneath that collapsed currency, investors and insiders have long waited for a reset. The moment Iraq's oil reserves, trade expansion, and new central bank policies would allow the dinar to revalue, jumping from fractions of a cent to potentially multiple dollars per unit. Over the years, this idea became legend in certain financial circles, dismissed by some as rumor, quietly tracked by others as opportunity. And now the whispers are back, louder than ever. In the last 10 days, at least 3 separate financial sources with access to Tier 1 banking terminals reported temporary flashes of updated dinar values. One insider claimed the rate appeared for less than 60 seconds before vanishing from the internal currency table. Another mentioned encrypted system tests involving new ISO codes. The institutions allegedly involved: Wells Fargo, Chase, HSBC, and a few regional banks, quietly testing their foreign exchange servers during off-peak hours. These events aren't random. They're coordinated and timed. A similar pattern appeared in 2018, months before the IMF adjusted Iraq's monetary status report. And back then, those system flashes were the precursor to policy changes inside Baghdad. The question now, is history repeating itself, or is this something bigger? Because parallel to these leaks, something else has been happening inside the IMF. According to several verified sources within the financial community, the IMF has been holding off-record strategy sessions on what they describe as regional liquidity, realignment, translation, currency recalibration across oil economies, Iraq included. Internal memos reportedly reference an RV window, that's insider shorthand for revaluation window in the final quarter of 2025, but that's not all. An overlapping set of IMF and World Bank meetings has been taking place in Europe behind closed doors with delegates from the Gulf states, including Iraq, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. The speculation, coordination for a partial, gold-backed system that would reset regional currency valuations. You won't find this on CNBC or Reuters, but traders watching Swift routing updates have already spotted test packets labeled IQD new. Something is moving beneath the surface, and it's not just speculation anymore. Let's zoom out. Why would Iraq and the IMF move on revaluation now? 3 reasons. First, the BRICS alliance. With more nations pushing for a gold-anchored trade system, the IMF risks losing influence unless it aligns key oil currencies. Second, inflation fatigue. The US dollar's dominance has created strain on import economies. Revaluing regional currencies would rebalance trade parity, at least temporarily. And third, political timing. Iraq's recent central bank reforms and anti-corruption policies have positioned it for a controlled rate adjustment, potentially pegged around the $3 mark, according to unverified internal drafts. That's right, $3. A move like that would instantly reshape the Forex landscape. Trillions in derivative value could shift overnight. For investors watching the signs, these aren't random events. They're chess moves on a global board that's already shaking. If or when the revaluation goes live, here's what happens. Central banks would immediately adjust their reserves. The US dollar would feel short-term pressure, especially in oil markets. Forex trading platforms could freeze IQD pairs temporarily to prevent speculative overflow. Meanwhile, regional currencies like the Iranian rial or Vietnamese dong could experience sympathetic movements, either appreciation or volatility depending on IMF synchronization. And for holders of dinar assets, the window could be narrow. Exchanges might occur under strict protocols or limited regional access. Make no mistake, if this event triggers, it will be one of the largest monetary realignments since Bretton Woods. Now here's where it gets more complicated. According to insiders, we're seeing 3 concurrent signals inside the financial system, each pointing to early-stage rate positioning. Signal 1. Liquidity compression. Large banks are quietly limiting certain foreign currency transactions, particularly in emerging market pairs. JP Morgan and HSBC have both reduced their accessible liquidity pools for MENA currencies, an unusual move unless rate recalibration is expected. Liquidity compression is a preemptive containment measure, meant to absorb volatility before a revaluation hits. Signal 2. Institutional hedging. Gold reserves and derivative swaps tied to oil are showing synchronized adjustments. Several Gulf-based funds increased hedged gold exposure by 12% last quarter, precisely as whispers of the RV window circulated. This mirrors the 2016 gold hedge buildup that preceded China's SDR inclusion. Someone's bracing for impact. Signal 3. Data silence. Certain IMF data portals, normally updated weekly, have gone dark for specific regional metrics, most notably Iraq's Reserve Reporting Index. When data goes quiet, it's rarely accidental. It usually means figures are being recalibrated before public release. Taken together, these 3 signals suggest preparation, not coincidence. Sources in European banking networks confirm that pre-clearance models are now active, internal simulations where exchange rates are tested under different liquidity conditions. It's how banks prepare for major shifts without spooking markets. Several insiders describe short bursts of IQD parity testing in system logs, paired with dummy settlement routes between Dubai and Frankfurt. That's operational testing, not rumor. Now let's talk scenarios. There are 3 possible outcomes circulating in high-level discussions. Scenario 1. Full public revaluation. The IMF and Iraqi Central Bank announce a coordinated rate adjustment. Visible on all Forex platforms, instant market reaction, temporary volatility, and possible short-term exchange freezes. This is the cleanest and most transparent path, but also the most disruptive. Scenario 2. Internal adjustment first. Only Tier 1 and Tier 2 banks receive early rate access. Public platforms remain unchanged, while major institutions settle trades at the new internal rate. This allows quiet balance corrections before an official announcement. It's stealth, stable, and believable because it's happened before. Scenario 3. BRICS integration route. A joint Gulf and BRICS-backed move links the dinar to commodity pricing, bypassing IMF oversight. This would effectively create a parallel monetary corridor outside the dollar system. If this unfolds, we're looking at a structural reset, not just a revaluation. Now, which of these scenarios seems most active? Based on cross-verified system data and insider statements, Scenario 2 fits best. Quiet synchronization, zero public acknowledgement, and selective institutional readiness. That's not theory, that's preparation. As one former IMF consultant put it, if you're seeing test packets, you're already in the rollout phase. They're not testing for fun. Meanwhile, geopolitical alignment is accelerating. Iraq recently finalized new oil trade agreements with Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and China, each denominated in local or alternative currencies. That's not just diversification, it's strategic detachment from the dollar peg. If oil starts moving in regional currency baskets, the dinar's leverage skyrockets. Now let's talk implications. If this shift triggers, the USD will likely face a correction wave, small but sharp. Central banks will rebalance reserves. Gold prices will spike 8 to 12%, and oil will trade at a premium as market makers hedge volatility. Cryptocurrencies, despite initial drops, could see speculative surges as investors reposition outside traditional Forex channels. The euro and yen would remain stable, but smaller currencies, especially in Africa and Southeast Asia, could face liquidity squeezes. Within Iraq, the central bank would enforce a limited exchange protocol, restricting redemption periods and imposing anti-speculation controls. Only verified holders could process conversions, and banks would require full KYC validation to prevent money laundering. A short exchange window may be days, not weeks. Let's be clear. This isn't financial advice, it's situational awareness. What we're witnessing is the convergence of economic timing, political alignment, and digital infrastructure, each step calculated, each move quiet. The banking system doesn't blink like this for no reason. Insiders describe late-night maintenance cycles across multiple financial networks. Translation: off-hour rate testing. These are the dry runs before realignment. You'll see it labeled as scheduled, liquidity optimization, or data. Harmonization on official portals. Ignore the jargon. That's the signal. And then there's the human factor, the traders, bankers, and policymakers trying to stay ahead. Within institutional chat rooms, discussion volume around IQD, RV, and rate window has spiked 220% since early September. Algorithms that scan for financial sentiment confirm a surge in chatter terms, like reset, window, and alignment. In short, even the machines are picking up the shift. So where does this story go next? We watch for confirmation triggers. If the IMF or the Central Bank of Iraq releases a sudden technical bulletin about reserve realignment, that's the green light. If major Forex platforms schedule maintenance simultaneously, that's your first red flag. And if BRICS-related banks, especially those in Russia, China, or the UAE, announce new oil settlement corridors, that's not random. It's step 3 in the domino sequence. What happens next depends on how fast the public narrative catches up. The mainstream media will stay quiet until it's undeniable. By the time you see this headline on Bloomberg or Reuters, the rate will already be live internally. That's the insider's law. Real shifts happen before the announcement, never after, and so we come full circle. Multiple leaks, quiet meetings, coordinated tests, hidden signals. Each one small, each one deniable, but together they paint a pattern. A system preparing for change, a currency about to re-emerge. The Iraqi Dinar story isn't over. It's entering its decisive phase. Stay alert, stay informed, and remember, when the mainstream finally reports it, you already heard it here first. This is Global Currency Watch.